What's going on, guys? Andy here, Cutting Clean Lawn Care again, and we're getting ready to check out valve adjustment on the BR800. It's somewhat similar to your 700s and the other 4MIX products. I think it's a little bit different. Obviously the engine size is different, but let's check it out, man. I'm excited to see it because it's always knowledge I want to learn, so let's check it out.
Cause it's tragedy on the mic and Andy in real life, and cutting clean when I be leaving everybody stripes so clean. You wanna get mad and invade my space because I can leave a sidewalk edge so straight, but you must be out of your mind.
David again, and he's going to show the process on valve adjustment on these. They're all the 4MIX machines are the main ones you have to worry about this on, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and by worry about, Andy, don't get too caught up on this is something that you got to do every month or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not like
we're talking
maintenance.
hundreds of hours. You're talking
Right.
maybe once a season if you're doing these, actual professional use and running them throughout the week. The really cool thing about the BR800, and Andy, get in here where you can see this, is that in the past, with a 500, 550, 600, you had this whole
shell you had to take off.
Right,
there.
you had the whole relawn starter, the whole shroud you had to take off. We still got to do the relawn starter, but now I've got this access port and just one screw to get down to this valve cover. So we're going to take this out. It's a captured screw so that we don't lose that screw. That's kind of a nice little thing.
Yep, keeps it in there.
Yep. And now there's our valve cover up on top. The other thing I'm going to do, we do need to take off the relawn starter because if we're going to adjust valves, we need to do it at the right point in the travel of the piston.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3 screws.
And even this information, if I'm not miscorrected, do correct me, is in the manual.
As far as valve adjustments,
Because for some reason I was thinking on my 700 it might have been in the manual.
For a typical homeowner, we're going to recommend you take this to the dealer,
Right.
Or a novice. Now, professional users, we offer professional training through lots of different field staff that we have around the country at our different distributors.
Okay.
If it's something that a landscaper is interested in, or they want their technician, if they've got their own technician to go through, your dealer can help get you linked up with that field technician, or call 1-800-GO-STIHL. We can help with that too.
Cool.
And that field trainer can come out, show you some basics, and part of that could be, if you want, could be valve adjustment going through that. And at that point, that's sort of things typically in the workshop manuals rather than the instruction manual.
Awesome.
It's not difficult, but it's a little more than the
Just changing the oil.
right. Like yeah, it's a little more than just filling up with gas or or checking the air filter. So what we want to do is on your flywheel, this is our flywheel right here, and we're going to do actually one more thing. We're going to actually line this up to a particular point, but we also need the valve cover off so that we can see where the piston is, or where rather the engine is in its travel. So we're going to take this screw out. One important point is this little valve cover washer.
Okay.
We need to make sure that stays. That copper washer is a crush washer, so we get a seal. Cover comes off. And another nice little thing compared to the 600s and the older ones is this valve cover now, this gasket, has got 3 locating points, so it's much easier to put in. If you've ever done that on a 600, it gets in there easy, but this is easier. So,
Gotcha.
all right. So what we want to do is, if we look at our flywheel, can you see an N and an S?
Yep.
So on a flywheel you have magnets, so you have a north and a south pole, and next to our S there's this triangle. I don't know how well you can get that on your camera.
Got it.
But we're going to turn that to 12 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. Once we're at 12 o'clock, I need to look at my rocker arms up here, my valve springs. If they're moving back and forth like they are now, I'm in between the compression and the power stroke, where you have valve, or rather you're in between the exhaust and the intake stroke, where I've got some valve overlap. I don't want to adjust them here. I want to go 360 degrees so that now, I got to overcome compression there. I'm going to get between compression and power stroke where my valves don't wiggle back and forth.
Yep.
Now I can adjust my valves. And what I'm looking for, this is just it's a 0.1 millimeter gap, which ends up being around 10 to 12 thousandths. There's a little bit of tolerance range there. And the little tip on this feeler gauge is going to slide right in here between the rocker arm and between the valve spring retainer. or really between the valve, and I should have just a certain amount of resistance. Notice it's not,
not too tight,
hard to
not
put
super
it
loose.
pull in, but it's not sliding in super easy.
Right.
So you have a little bit of resistance and a little bit of resistance, and that feels good. If I had to, you'd use an 8mm socket to tighten or loosen the valve, depending on what I need to do to get to that resistance.
Right.
Over some wear and tear and just a lot of run time on this engine, just like any 4-stroke engine, you've got to adjust valves. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now, once you would do that, the only other things would be anytime I'm doing this maintenance, I would normally put a new valve cover gasket on it and a new copper washer. One of the really cool things too is that we offer, and our dealers typically would stock, if they're working on these engines, a kit that has a new valve cover gasket, this little feeler gauge, and this copper washer all in a little kit. So for a landscaper, if you're doing your own maintenance, I would have a couple kits for each of the units that I've got, so I'm ready to go.
Yep.
If it's the dealer doing this for you, this is actually the nice thing about this valve cover. This access port here is also that this job is a lot quicker for even the technician. So, you know, your local dealer charges anywhere from 50 to $100 an hour.
Right.
And instead of this taking a half hour on a BR600, this is a 15-minute job.
Right.
Easy. Along with doing your other maintenance like checking fuel filter, air filter, that kind of thing. So,
I'd say in a lot of times, not so much even the money, but for me personally, I like to learn my machines.
Sure,
And get
absolutely.
a better idea of what's going on. So
Absolutely.
being able to do these processes, owning my machines, just makes me feel that much more comfortable with the machine and what's going on with it.
Well, and you can begin to have an actual conversation with your technician. Your technician at your dealership understands this stuff, knows this stuff. If you can go into it going, okay, I understand how to do this, understand how to do this. You can tell you from my experience working at a dealership, it makes a huge difference being able to talk to a customer, a pro guy, intelligently, and being able to give them an explanation, and they understand it, and they see the value in what I'm telling them rather than just I'm making something up. There's some validity in what we're talking about.
See, and a lot of people probably won't get it, but not having to take this whole housing shell off makes a huge difference, I think.
Deal.
Yeah.
Because you had to, if you remember, you still had to take 3 screws off to take your reel off. That hasn't changed. And then you had 1, 2, 3, 4 screws.
Yep.
And when you would take it off, you had to lift this up and get it over, get these little rubber buffers over. There's little pegs, that little cones that they stick on. And once you put it back on, then you got to worry about making sure that you get your throttle cable located correctly. Because if you don't do that and you just turn the tube out, then all of a sudden the RPM goes. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. Yes, this is so much easier.
Yeah. So for you guys that like doing your own stuff on the 800, obviously they've made it a lot simpler for you. So that's awesome. There's not much to it, like what I was saying, man. A lot of you guys can do this stuff yourself. I was awesome to see kind of more of the internals and what's going on in the new 800. Like I said, I'm super excited about it. We've been playing with it outside, checking out the power. So I just wanted to give you guys that because it's very similar on the 700s and 600s as far as the valve adjustment. Obviously, it's a little bit different in your length and travel on this for a bigger motor, but just gives you guys a little more of an understanding. If you wanted to do it yourself and you think your valves need to be adjusted, then you guys can do that yourself. So thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.